7 o'clock. Let's get to it. It's Topical starts right now. A very good evening to you, South Africa, those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical, our digital audience with us tonight. So good to see them. It's going to be very interesting to get their comments in a short 12 questions as well. Now, a few raids that stood out of late. A suspected military camp in Mpumalanga. Close to 100 foreign nationals arrested. Police say the place, which was initially designated as a training site, appears to have been converted into an illegal military training base. Major General Mpumalanga saying in a statement that they take any threat to the security and the stability of the province and the country very seriously. What does that all mean? We'll get to that in a short while. Then, last week, the National Commissioner of the Department of Correctional Services led a surprise search at a correctional center in the Western Cape region. It came in the wake of a video of an inmate, you might have seen it, that went viral on social media platforms depicting the so-called soft life behind bars. Then another raid at a Johannesburg correctional center, popularly known as Sun City Prison this week. Gaming consoles, phones, makeup, even kettles, some of the items seized. The National Commissioner said that one of the risks faced in preventing contraband from being smuggled into such facilities is a result of remand detainees who have a high movement in and out of correctional facilities. Why? Because they need to attend court. But what about the issue of rogue officials? To what extent are they exacerbating the problem? We will dig a little deeper during tonight's show, which leads us to the question of the week. And we're asking you, what are your thoughts on the state of South Africa's prisons in the wake of some of the visuals you've seen, some of the context you've heard from that raid in Sun City Prison? Please let us know at SABC News _TV. Let's walk and talk. Magic wall time. Context. Questions. Are our prisons just universities of crime? And is there a culture of corruption in correctional services? No doubt there are good men and women who diligently perform their duties. So it's not a case of one shoe fits all. But what about those who don't put their best foot forward, right? Is there consequence management? Share your thoughts with us at SABC News _TV. Perspective coming up. All right, context, what we know, and more importantly, why it matters. Turn to the magic ball. 2 major raids in 1 week. One of them on Wednesday at the Johannesburg Correctional Center known as Sun City Prison. Items seized, gaming consoles, flat screen plasma TVs, mobile phones, etc. Then, on Friday, in White River, Mpumalanga, we heard the reports, 95 Libyans taken into custody. These were some of the items reportedly seized, right? Now, I want to take you back to the issues of prisons affecting the correctional centers. Information from the Judicial Inspectorate for Correctional Services. Some of the problems plaguing South Africa's prisons: extreme overcrowding, dilapidated infrastructure, lack of proper hygiene, general poor management, medical facilities and kitchens not up to standard. What does that mean in terms of how things are organized currently? Then, let's zoom in on South Africa's prison population in terms of the 5-year inmate population trend. The 2022-2023 Department of Correctional Services annual report, it tells us that the inmate population trend from 2020-21 to 2022-23 reflects an overall increase of over 16,000 inmates. Now, this constitutes an overall increase of just over 11% over a 3-year period. Now, this, in comparison, stay with me, I'm going to throw a lot of numbers at you, to the 3-year period, the inmate population increased with close to 14,000 inmates during the 2022-23 financial year, constituting an overall increase of 9%. I know, threw a lot of numbers at you. As we know, as we've learned, numbers mean absolutely nothing without context. My guest tonight will no doubt flesh out these numbers in more detail, so stay tuned for that. Now, it's a story that's left more questions than answered, you would agree, right? About your safety and security. From prisoners found with illicit goods at the Johannesburg prison, also known as Sun City, to a suspected illegal military camp facility discovered in Mpumalanga. Take a look at this montage compiled by producer Mpumalanga.
There's a raid here by EST. EST is emergency support team, not ordinary prison warders that you know or prison officials that you know.
These are not conditions that are there to present a life of luxury or a life of a holiday maker. They are exposed to the outside world, and when they mix, that's during the time when they get transported. They exchange these contrabands. We have an issue of overcrowding, so it is difficult to search. You must be serious. These are your things. You are fine. It's your boxes. And then I found them in your box, so they are yours.
Using these tablets.
Yeah, but they are yours. I found them in your box. Don't say you can say yes. The evidence speaks for itself. Yeah, don't make me a fool. Some of them actually keep them inside their bodies. In fact, we help them by doing them, because some of them end up having, medical complications.
Andre.
We always have to be on alert to ensure that we block them before they come in. That's the preferred position. The position that we are in now of searching for them when they are already inside is not the preferred position.
All indications here are pointing to this being more of a military training facility than an ordinary security training center. That's a concern. We have a facility. They say we train security guards. They apply. For that, they get a certification. But what they then do, especially in this instance, it's something that is not in the application that was approved.
While the Libyan trainees were arrested for contravention of Immigration Act, the owner or owners of the facilities are still not arrested.
You can then say, while investigations are continuing, continue with what you're doing. On deportation, we're not there yet.
Once we finalize the investigation, then we'll be able to know who is inside for investigation.
All right, many thanks to Mpumalanga there for that montage. It really tees up the conversation we're about to have. But before that, as you know, the news comes first on It's Topical. We're getting news just coming in with regards to former President Jacob Zuma. It says that former President Jacob Zuma has been expelled from the SABC, from the ANC. This has been revealed in documents in possession of the SABC. The NDC has found Zuma guilty by the party's National Disciplinary Committee by prejudicing the integrity of the organization by acting in collaboration with the Umkhonto we Sizwe party in a manner that aims in a manner that's contrary to the aims, policies and objectives of the ANC. Now, he has 21 days to appeal the judgment to the ANC's National Committee of Appeal. We will get you more details with regards to this. Our reporter Samkele Maseko is on top of it. We're going to bring him onto the program, flesh this issue out, give you some context as to how this all built up. We know about reporting that it was supposed to be a virtual hearing. We know the appeals from Mr. Zuma and his camp with regards to they wanted it to be in person. How did this all materialize over the past couple of days? Context coming up. Samkele Maseko, stand by with that. The breaking news, former President Jacob Zuma has been expelled from the ANC, and this is according to some of the documents that is in possession of the SABC. All right, let's get you started with regards to the discussion that we're about to have. It's an important one. You saw the developments this week. My guest tonight, Singabako Mpumalanga, Correctional Services spokesperson, as well as Golden Miles Budu, South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights. Thank you very much indeed, gentlemen, for your time. Willem Els is Senior Training Coordinator in ACT Program, Institute of Security Studies. He joins us virtually. Thank you very much indeed, sir, as well as a digital audience. Looking forward to getting your take in a short while. Mr. Mpumalanga, firstly to you. We've seen the footage. Some are shocked, some are not. Items like gaming consoles, makeup, money, dacha. Are heads rolling within the department, first of all?
Thank you for having us, and a very good evening. As Correctional Services, we've done quite a lot in terms of transforming what was then the prison system into humane centers where rehabilitation takes place. But in that, we ought to have safe and secure facilities. Hence, you will see us from time to time conducting those searching exercises, because it's difficult to have safe and secure facilities when you've got contrabands finding their way inside of our facilities. Hence, then you will see us doing those raids. But the story that is not being told is that our centers do conduct their own searches routinely. But then one may have to say, but with one search, you're able to get so many contrabands at Johannesburg. How does that happen? It's something that we've asked that facility to say, how effective are your searching exercises if we're able to get this huge amount of contrabands? Yes, we've taken action against our own officials that are caught smuggling. And also...
What sort of action?
I'll just give you a few figures. In the 2023-24 financial year, court enforcement took action against 66 officials, but that was for maladministration, fraud, corruption, and other charges. But we also have Departmental Investigation Unit, which finalized 334 cases out of 432. That's where you also find those officials who are also involved in smuggling. Right. So as a department, there's a lot more that we are doing. Just last week, 2 of our own officials were arrested at Emelo because they were trying to smuggle those contrabands. Disappointingly so, that case was not enrolled in court. But there is more that we are doing. Unfortunately, you will then find those snippets there and there, which then creates this negative picture.
Well, yet it's still happening, despite the number of officials that have been arrested. It's mind-boggling to think that prisoners have flat screen TVs and gaming consoles in prisons, and that can't be seen by wardens. What is at the heart of this?
A TV set, radio, kettle to boil water is allowed in a correctional facility, but an inmate ought to have a permit. You apply for it because it's a privilege. The TV sets that were removed is because those inmates could not produce those permits. Therefore, we had to remove them. But something like a PlayStation, that is not supposed to be there. Hence, we asked the facility to say, give us a report in terms of some of the items that we found. How did they manage to find their way inside? And after that, that's when, accountability has to come in so that, we're able to take action. But as a department, as I've said, these are routine searches that we do. There's a lot more that we remove from our facilities, and having some communities building around our centers, throwing in things which are not supposed to be there is a new phenomenon that we are discovering, and you can't just move away those people. But as a department, we are now saying perhaps the traditional way of searching may not assist much. Technologically, is there something that we can do?
How does a prisoner qualify for a television?
You will find inmates who are participating in rehabilitation programs, whose behavior is also positive. So they then go before the case management committee where their classification is being reviewed. Then out of that, then they may be upgraded and start receiving privileges. That system is done in a way that it encourages inmates to behave positively and also to continuously embark on their journey towards rehabilitation. And out of that, there is quite a number of privileges that they earn. Hence, a person could apply to have a radio or a TV set or a kettle to boil water.
Golden Miles Budu, the smuggling of contraband in prison, where do you think the problem lies here?
Slow morale. You see, we were calling some time ago that the Department of Correctional Services must allow correctional officers as citizens, one as workers and as officials, to go into their own little corner and organize themselves there, and then thereafter go to their respective trade unions and tell the trade unions what is that needs to be done in order to boost the morale. And then it would make it very easy for the trade union to concentrate more on labor relation issues. But they themselves as human beings must be given a voice this time with new management to be able to say, look, we are paying you subscription fees, we are telling you what is that needs to be done, and what needs to be done, we need to be retrained. And when we are retrained, we would be able to be loyal, we will be transparent, we will have dignity and respect amongst ourselves and the correctional officers, their seniors and their offenders. We need, there must be ethical behavior, consistency, and transparency.
Are you saying that the low morale among wardens or correctional center facilities, employees, is giving way to such rogue officials within the department?
Well, I talk with progressive correctional officers. What is scandaled? They say their trade union has forgotten about them. All the trade union does is take their subscription fees. And of course, yes, we've got a dominant trade union, which is the biggest of them all, which is also politically tainted and politically corrupted and politically captured, which is POPCRO, And I also want to use this opportunity that next time, when they talk about prisoners' rights, they must keep quiet and sit down. That's our mandate. Now, I talk with everybody. They say, Miles, look, please, man, try and talk with the new minister of Correctional Services, a white Afrikaner man. Maybe you could assist us to turn this institution around.
I want to get to that point in a short while, but I want to go back to our breaking news. As I said, we've got some breaking news on our watch. SABC News reporting, former President Jacob Zuma has been expelled from the ANC. Fresh reporting now from Samkele Maseko, SABC News political reporter. Samkele, what more are we learning at this hour?
A very good evening to you, Blaine. What we are learning is that the ANC's National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals has recommended the expulsion of former President Jacob Zuma after he failed to appear virtually in the ANC's disciplinary hearing. We also do know that this is a recommendation at this point in time. It still needs to be, a decision of the ANC's National Disciplinary Committee is binding, and the former president in the letter he has about 21 days to appeal this particular verdict. We did ask some members of the ANC's National Disciplinary Committee, and they were unwilling to comment on this particular matter. I'm just going to go to the actual letter itself. It starts with the background and what informs the former president. It goes to count 1, which is basically that you are guilty of contravening Rule 2517.4 of the ANC Constitution, acting on behalf of or collaboration with political organization or party, either than an organization or party in alliance with the ANC in a manner contrary to the aims, policies, and objectives of the ANC. That was count 1. And it goes on to count 2, which is Rule 2517.13 of the ANC Constitution, which reads, joining or supporting a political organization or party other than an organization in alliance with the ANC in a manner contrary to the aims, objectives, and policies of the ANC. Those are the two counts that the former president was basically being charged at in the African National Congress. They go back to their narration of the events since the 16th of December 2023, where he publicly endorsed the MK party and how he has subsequently turned his back on the governing party. So in essence, the ANC's NDC makes the following ruling. The disciplinary hearing of the charged member will be held virtually on a virtual platform, which was supposed to take place on the 23rd of July at 10 o'clock, and he opted to be represented by Tony Yengeni. It reads that Comrade Tony Yengeni was not available to attend the pre-hearing conference on Thursday, 18th of July. The NDC sent the following communique to Tony Yengeni. Let me fast forward and go to the actual verdict that the ANC's National Disciplinary has decided on. The NDC finding. Right. The charged member is found guilty of contravening Rule 25.17.17.4 of the ANC Constitution. Read with the subsection 2 of the prejudicing the integrity or reputation of the organization by acting in collaboration with a registered political party to with the MK party, which is not in alliance with the ANC in a manner contrary to the aims, policies and objectives of the ANC. The charged member is expelled from the ANC. The charged member has the right to appeal the National Disciplinary Committee of Appeal within 21 days. So basically, the former president can go to the NDCA of the African National Congress to appeal this particular judgment. Right. At this point in time, it is a draft. It has not yet been fully finalized and has not yet been fully communicated with the ANC's officials or ANC structures. But what we do know is that the former president could not appear virtually because he did complain of a network issue out in Nkandla. Right. He did opt to be represented by Tony Yengeni, whom as well opted out of the meeting of the NDC, of the hearing, when it took place last week due to problems of network connection. So effectively, the former president at this point in time has been preliminarily expelled from the governing party upon finalization or official communication of these particular letters. We did speak to some members of the ANC's National Disciplinary Committee of Appeals, and some of them just basically said, what do you take us for, Samkele? We can't be confirming ANC communication with journalists at this point in time.
Do we know that this decision has been communicated to the former president?
At this point in time, I cannot comment on that particular issue. To be frank, I do not know at this point in time. I was just communicating with the ANC's, some of the people I saw attached to this particular communication. I was communicating with them. I've not yet reached out to Nhlamulo Ndlela, the spokesperson of the MK party. I've not yet reached out to Tony Yengeni. I will definitely, after this particular phone call Tony Yengeni and find out whether such communication has been communicated with him as the elected representative of former President Jacob Zuma within this particular hearing within the ANC.
Given your reporting on this, Samkele, do you have any indication, or did you receive any indication that this would be appealed? Is there a possible appeal to follow?
Definitely, there would be an appeal to follow, because former President Jacob Zuma has maintained that he will die a member of the African National Congress. He holds dual membership of the ANC and the MK party. He formed the MK party to rescue the ANC from the clutches of the current president of the African National Congress, Cyril Ramaphosa, who is perceived as pushing neoliberal policies that are aligned with the capitalist class within the country. Whether that's true or not, that is the political rhetoric that is touted by former President Jacob Zuma and his supporters. As you know, that politics is a political theater of political theatrics and rhetoric. And one will say that it will definitely be an issue that the former president will take up. He may decide to appeal this particular verdict, and it also may be deliberated in the highest decision-making body of the governing party that will be taking stock of what happened in the elections, and particularly knowing that the MK party that former President Jacob Zuma endorsed single-handedly dipped the ANC under 50% in the country, because no other political formation can claim that they are responsible for dipping the ANC under 50%. Right. The Moonshot Pact can't claim that. They dismally failed. You go to the economic freedom fighters, they did not perform as well, so they can't claim to have dipped the ANC under 50%. It is the MK party that took about 1.8 million votes of the African National Congress and evidently dipped them under 50%. So an appeal may be on the cards by former President Jacob Zuma. As he has said, he will die a member of the ANC.
Oh, all right, Sam, we'll let you go and work your sources. If there's any fresh developments, come back to us. We'll get you on air immediately, get the viewers the very latest. I'm Kile Maseko, the political SABC News political reporter. All right, gentlemen, apologies for that. We had to get to it quickly for the audience. But back to the conversation. Singabako, with regards to rogue officials within the department and contributing to such contraband coming into prisons, how big of a problem is that?
We have to clarify that there's 4 categories of people with access to our correctional facilities. It is inmates themselves, those who work with spans outside, and those who frequent courts. You have our own officials, you have contractors with that particular access. So I'll come to the 4th one. So when you check those movements, people do then bring in these contrabands, and they'll be subjected to a searching, but others do find a way to go inside with them. But the 4th category is the visitors. It pains us a lot when you see a lot of, and I will say this, female visitors being used by organized structures to smuggle items when they visit correctional centers. And we have no choice except to call the SAPS to come and effect an arrest. And certainly most of those people will go out on a warning.
Yes.
But therefore it doesn't assist us in that gospel of cleaning our facilities. But we've made it a point that our security operations are not only focused on officials, inmates and everyone with access them. Hence we are saying, let us look at the equipment that we are having, but then the role of technology, as I've said earlier, how far can it go to assist us so that at least even if, let's say, a cell phone has been smuggled in, that cell phone is of no use because there is no signal. But it is not just cell phones that concern us the most. At times you even find sharpened objects being smuggled, okapis, where you then find our officials being attacked. Right. And we always say to our officials who are doing these dirty things when we discipline them, to say, you are not assisting offenders, but you're also putting lives of your own colleagues at risk, because once those objects are used, but also what about the victims of crime? Because these mobile phones are then used either to conduct witnesses, to threaten them, or other data operations are then used by people who are safely secured in our facilities, but have this outside contact with people.
Let me bring in Willem Els, ISS. Do you see alternative ways in order to so-called police people that come in to the facilities, or any other way that we could put paid to such contraband entering the correctional facilities?
Good evening to you. I think the elephant in the room here is that it's effective management, but also what we see is that either the officials are lapsed in doing their work because it's all about access control and searching, or they are being corrupted. Now, with that, we don't say all officials are corrupted, but we know that these state actors are open to corruption, and they are being targeted by these inmates, but also by the organized gangs that are prevalent within our prison system. So they've got lots of money. There's a lot of money that is changing hands. It makes it very lucrative for these people to then get involved. But as your guest there mentioned, all the dangers with that. One of the things that is a very good measure to curb corruption that has been implemented somewhere all over the world is the use of body camera. So I think one of the options that we have is that we have to force our wardens to wear body cameras, and then while we're wearing that, everything will be recorded, what they are doing, etc., etc. That gives some control to management in order to monitor what is going on when these wardens are then in areas and in spaces where they are not being monitored.
Right. I need to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll get Golden your take on some of the measures, body cams, maybe moving wardens to different prisons to eliminate that familiarity part of it. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll also go to our digital audience. More next. Welcome back. Lots to discuss on It's Topical tonight. The main topic that we're discussing tonight is the raids that we've seen of late, in particular in correctional centers, revealing a plethora, a raft of items, contraband, if you will, that has shocked some. Others are not so shocked. But how do we get to the root cause of this? How do we prevent it from happening? Also, there's the camp, a suspected military camp as well in Mpumalanga. Lots of questions there. We don't know definitively what this camp is used for. Investigations continuing. 95 foreign nationals have been arrested. What does this all mean? I'm going to bring in Willem Els into this conversation to get us a take on that. Also, breaking news on our watch, on It's Topical's watch, the former president Jacob Zuma expelled from the ANC. That's the reporting from the SABC. We're in possession with certain documents. We brought you earlier on Samkela Maseko fleshing out some of the details. More to come. We're going to get some analysis as well as the night progresses in other shows. So stay tuned to SABC News for that. Let's go straight to now our digital audience. Get their take. Let's get Sunshine. Sunshine, if you can unmute your take, your comment, your question.
Thank you very much, and greetings to everyone. I think my first point of emphasis will be addressing the issue of overcrowding in our correctional facilities, which then requires for us to relook at the sentencing reform in South Africa, to look at different ways of punishing, because some of the people that go there for the short-term period of the crimes that they've committed, they therefore participate in that criminal element and that criminal syndicate within our correctional facilities. Also, the current crisis then poses a threat in what the correctional facilities seek to achieve, which is rehabilitation. Then poses a question that is there rehabilitation taking place in our South African correctional facilities or not? So therefore, I would urge the correctional services to relook at the rehabilitation methods that are currently being used in South Africa, to firstly address the issue of overcrowding that is currently present, and also address issues of crime currently taking place in correctional facilities.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Sunshine. I'll put that to our guest in a short while. Noel, let's get your take.
Good evening to everyone in studio and to the viewers at home. So this definitely raises critical concerns about prison management, justice, and, as Sunshine mentioned, rehabilitation. So it's also a stark indicator of how our prison system is failing in its primary objectives. Prisons are designed to reform and punish, not offer inmates a lifestyle to comfort that undermines the essence of incarceration. And legally, I think this indicates challenges our perception of imprisonment. While international human rights standards afford for certain rights to prisoners, they certainly don't justify luxuries that diminish from the rehabilitative purpose of incarceration. The presence of such contraband also highlights a serious breach of both legal and ethical standards. So furthermore, I think the magnitude of the contraband discovered points to severe issues with management and oversight, and it definitely suggests corruption. The recent reports implicating correctional officers in smuggling in these luxuries reveal a deeper systemic problem when these, or those responsible rather, for maintaining order are involved in such activities. Right. It signifies an urgent need for reform and accountability. So I think that rehabilitation should definitely focus on equipping inmates with education, vocational training, physical, psychological support rather, and life skills. And I think what I'd like to ask is, firstly, how could we incorporate our cultural values like Ubuntu into prison reform programs to ensure that they align with our principles of human dignity and community? Are there any current initiatives in place that are actually in effect? And also, what specific reforms could be introduced to improve both security and rehabilitation within our prisons, ensuring they prepare inmates for reintegration while preserving public trust, especially in light of recent corruption issues?
Okay, Noel, I think we've got that point. I think I'm going to throw that to you, Golden, with regards to how do you weigh, look, when somebody commits a crime, the public expects them to be punished, in inverted commas. But there is an element of rehabilitation, corrections. As we know, it's called correctional centers now, not prisons anymore. How do you weigh up that in terms of the rehabilitation side of it?
Well, I forgot earlier on to tell you that the same thing has happened to sentenced and unsentenced prisoners. They be allowed to organize themselves in a small Nyana corner there, not in form of gangsters. They are allowed to be organized as gangsters for very obvious reasons. They get organized, and the Department of Correctional Services should have 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if not 20 years ago, went into a recognition and a procedural agreement with us as a mass mobilization and membership organization for prisoners. And we're not apologetic about it. We believe that if we were organized and given a recognition and it's been legislated, instead of bringing the Judicial Inspectorate and Correctional Services to come and be a roadblock here, you know, we were going to make it clear to our members, our followers, our supporters, sympathizers and admirers that, my brother, you are here to serve a sentence, you've got a responsibility, and you must just do that, or else you're going down. And it's for almost 30 years. We were never recognized, and we remain unrecognized. And I hope Meneer Peter Johannes Groenewald is going to listen to us, because we'll meet him early next month. And it will be for the first time in almost 30 years that it's the second time that we meet a Minister of Correctional Services, and I hope he's going to give us an ear, because the Department of Correctional Services is not going to do all this by themselves. They are too concocted.
Singabako, the issue of overcrowding and working more closely to organizations like Golden Miles Buddha belongs to, is that part of the plan in order to put pay to some of these issues?
The issue of overcrowding is a perennial one, but it cannot just be focused to correctional services. The entire criminal justice system has to find solutions. We have a strategy, but the strategy can only be effective if all players within the JCPS do play their role. Currently, we are sitting at an overcrowding level of 44%. That is totally undesirable.
Yeah.
It means our centers are extremely overcrowded, and where we are feeling the pain the most is with remand detainees. Those are people who are frequenting courts, and sadly, that's where you also find quite a lot of smuggling, and there is a focus there. But there is a lot of, not even a lot, most of our officials are committed, are doing their work. It is unfortunate that we have the few which is compromised. We are dealing with them. But then it also goes to the issue of saying, how effectively are we then able to work with what we have? Because correctional services ought to have at least a staff establishment of 45,000.
Yes.
But we're standing at 37,000. So you can see that our officials are stretched, but we are not complaining. We just have to work smarter. But there are structured ways within which, you know, a government entity can work. There are organizations that we work with, but unfortunately, we cannot, you know, extend it to other means which are not legislated.
Right. I need to take a break, but before we do that, let's get one quick comment from Carmen, and then I'm going to take a break and go back to Willem to talk about that suspected military camp. Carmen?
Hi there, everyone. You know, I think when we see news like this, and, you know, it's all too well for all of us, we understand what's going on in the news, but I think it begs to question the entire credibility of our, you know, our criminal justice system and prison reform in general. I mean, if we, you know, go down to the nitty-gritty, at the end of the day, if in this technological age we have people with phones and Wi-Fi routers conducting criminal organizations from inside the walls, I mean, what does, you know, a sentence deter any sort of criminal or offender from stopping and fixing their behavior? I mean, we're in the business of corrections, but with the current standard of living conditions and access to technology and things that people are actually hiding, bringing in and out of the prison, you know, it's something that really does need to discuss at its core.
All right, Carmen, thank you very much indeed. We're going to get more on this in a short while. Quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about the suspected military camp discovered in Mpumalanga. More next. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. A number of raids has taken place of late. One of them is in Mpumalanga. We saw on Friday 95 Libyan nationals, we're told, were arrested, taken into custody. Suspected military camp. Let's bring in Willem Els now to get his perspective. Sir, no doubt you've seen the reporting, whether it's a training facility or a military camp, it's yet to be fully determined. I'm not sure if the line is very thin, between the difference between the two. But what stands out for you?
Yeah, well, in the first place, I think there are currently more questions than answers. And we have to rely on the minister's press briefing, as well as the national commissions and the police press release that they did. And there are a few things that came out from that. In the first place, these 95 people have not been arrested. According to the statement from the police, they have been taken in for questioning. So that means that the judge's rules have not been read to them and they've not been charged. So that's also an indication, as the minister and the national commissioner said, that this case is under investigation. There's been no arrest, neither on the Libyan side or on the side of the service providers, and that is because they are still investigating. They are gathering information. They also gathered a lot of evidence on the camp, and now they have to start with the analysis of that and then building a case. At the end of the day, should there then be a case against these people, it will be taken to the NPPA, and the NPA will then decide whether to prosecute or not. So that is the status of this thing. Another point that the minister also made is that there's a very blurred line between your security training and military training. And the reason for that is that in South Africa, because of our violent society and the high levels of crime, your security guards cannot, not all of them, just be trained to work with a baton and sit at the gate. You've got different categories of security guards. Some of them are close protectors. Some of them are working in cash and transit operations where they need different skill sets and different type of training. We also see on the website of this group that provided this training that they also provide training for game wardens. They also provided training for your cash and transit people and so on. So at the end of the day, there's a very blurred line, and on face value, it looks very much like a military camp. And if you see on their website, they say it's also military style training that they provide the security. So of course, these people need to be accredited. They are accredited by CIRA, and CIRA actually accredited them to do certain types of training. They had to be registered for that training in terms of SAQA, and they have to stick to the rules. The
Just
question
very
now,
briefly,
I think, is did they stick to the rules?
Well, that's a good point. And maybe it'll feed into my next question in terms of what would intelligence services be looking at, what would form part of their calculus when sifting through evidence and sifting through the information that they have to determine whether this suspected military camp poses a threat to national security.
Yeah, in the first place, they will look at the curriculum. The curriculum is the one that has been approved. So if they stuck to the curriculum and the training was done strictly according to the curriculum, of course, then they operated within the lines of the law. But should they have overstepped that blurred line and leaned more over toward military training and added some training, added some skills to what they were supposed to, of course, then there is a case for the police to look at.
Right. Let's go back to quickly our digital audience, get some final comments in the 5 minutes that we have. Mahaba, let's go to you first. If you can unmute.
After hearing everything about the police and the raid of the inmates in that prison of Sun City, I've come to understand that the security system in our country has become weakened, and I understand that maybe the solution is to really invest in our security system, for maybe it may assist in the problems that officials may face in the prisons, as there is a wide variety of inmates. There's an increase of inmates every single year. So we understand that maybe an increase in security may assist in that, and may also assist society, in other words, like prevent others from being victims of whatever crime that may occur. So we understand that the police are also shortened in numbers. So really, we would not really blame them for what has happened and what has occurred. This theme of corruption has happened for a very long time, but still, as South Africans, we hope for change and we hope for corruption to reduce so that we can live in more harmonious ways.
Right.
And we'll understand that the inmates they're there to be rehabilitated. And as other words, we understand that they're given another chance to change themselves.
All right, let's leave it there, Mahaba. Let's go to Lorraine.
They know all the skills and necessary things to do and not to do to avoid jail.
Got
but
you,
then
Mahaba.
now we...
I think we've got your point there, Mahaba. Let's go to Lorraine, for time purposes. Go ahead, Lorraine.
Good evening. My question is directed to the DPS spokesperson. So this matter of prison race, firstly, is a matter of public interest and it raises a lot of questions. So I would like to ask what is normally being done? What are normally the punishments for offenders who are found in possession of such objects, or rather, what does the correctional services do to regulate such conduct of offenders?
Okay, let's use the 1.5 minutes that we have, Singabako, to sum up that question from Lorraine as well as your closing thoughts.
Okay. Safe and secure custody is a priority for correctional services, the same strength as rehabilitation. So the raids that you've seen will continue to do them. There's a lot more that we're doing in terms of security. But responding to Lorraine's question, inmates, when contravening the code of conduct, are charged in terms of Section 23 of the Correctional Services Act. They are degraded. Let's say maybe if you are classified to be medium, you can be moved to a maximum facility and you lose a number of privileges. But what's important, and the message that we need to drive home, is that as a community, we can all contribute positively. You cannot aid someone who is in a correctional facility by buying them airtime, by trying to smuggle particular items. So let us all contribute to this so that we can have safe and secure facilities, so that people in our centers can be rehabilitated, because with the things that you see are a distraction and something that we do not want to see. And our officials who are doing a good job, we can only say to them, they must just keep pushing, let us deal with the bad elements and we'll get rid of them.
The way forward for you?
Look, we've got 4 items which we have sent already to the Minister, Peter Johannes Groenewald. 4 items. 1, recognition and procedural agreement. Number 2, there is a conference that was held at millions of taxpayers' monies. There were 9 recommendations. In 2015 were those recommendations made. And if those recommendations were implemented, monitored and evaluated and enforced, I'm sure the language was going to be different today. And then we've got a victims' rights charter that was completed in 2007 by the Department of Correctional Services, Justice, and very influential organizations. And those charters, the victims' rights charters, is gathering dust. It should have been taken through the mill up to an extent that it is promulgated and constitutionalized. That is why the victims are crying. And finally, we're talking about prison industries, where they are not going to eat and they're going to work, they're going to get a stipend, they're going to pay for their stay, and they're going to invest some monies into some families, into some victims' funds, and to some paying for union subscriptions. That is what we want to discuss with the Minister with.
Thank you so much. Indeed, we no doubt will follow this very closely. My apologies, Cicelo. First dibs for you on our future programs. We didn't get to you, but thank you very much indeed to our digital audience, Willem as well, Singabako and Golden. Appreciate your time. No doubt this conversation will continue. All right, before we go, here's my take. Perception is very important in understanding human behavior. And when people see videos like the one doing its rounds on social media depicting the so-called soft life in prison, whether this is a reality or not, it adds to a particular narrative, again, right or wrong, that inmates have it easy. And that is added trauma for the victims of crime on the outside. We need to break the cycle of crime, and the Department of Correctional Services plays an important role in that. You'll remember the 2005 white paper on corrections in South Africa. It obliges management to develop the department into an institution of rehabilitation, of societal reintegration, social reintegration, and also promote corrections as a societal responsibility. That's important. Now, the punitive consequences for the crimes that have been committed versus the need for rehabilitation. How does that weigh up? It is only when everybody in this value chain, when they understand this mission, will we then see the cycle of crime being broken. And that's my take. If you missed anything on this program, then be sure to watch this episode of It's Topical on YouTube. Democracy 30 up next with Oliver Dixon. If you're watching a repeat of this program, then as always, the news continues. Until next week, my brothers and sisters, take care. Bye-bye.